Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by Ndis Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Debbie from Ndis Property Australia, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast, a show that explains, highlights, guides and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing Ndis world. This is our regular SDA Unlocked episode where we delve into the supply-demand data for specialist disability accommodation in different areas around Australia. Today I'm going to be talking about Mackay in North Queensland. Why Mackay? Well, we have actually had some properties for sale in Mackay for some time, which were heavily delayed due to council issues. And when we recently looked at the data, we knew that there was an oversupply in the area. When we looked at the most recent data in more detail, we got a bit of a fright. There's a big oversupply. So this is one of our warning episodes on if you've got something you're planning to put into that area. Probably don't. If you've got something that is in the pipeline that you can, divert away from, then that would be a good idea to consider. But anyway, just to confirm where Mackay is, for those of you who are not particularly familiar with Queensland, it's about a half to 3/5 of the way from Brisbane to Cairns. So it's sort of considered North Queensland. So Mackay's actually in the larger region of the Mackay-Isaac-Whitsunday SA4. And there are just 3 SA3 regions in that larger area, which Bowen Basin, North, Mackay at Whitsunday. Now, it's a little bit of a distinct area, Mackay, because those other 2 SA3s, the Whitsunday, Bowen Basin, North, have very little populations and NDIS populations. So we're actually talking about between roughly 75 and 80, 90% of all the NDIS participants actually live in Mackay itself. So when we look at the data, often we're limited by some of the information only being given in that larger region. Here we can assume that, say, 80% of it is relevant to Mackay itself, which gives us a little bit more clarity on the actual numbers that we're looking at. So let's look at those numbers. If we're looking at the Mackay SA3, we've got 63 enrolled dwellings with 125 places for 76 participants. So already we've got an oversupply of places. Having said that, there are 33 participants with funding that are not actually using it. So that may indicate that some of that supply is not suitable. And there are actually 6 group homes in the area, 3 properties that were grandfathered into the system, and some group homes have also been built since then. So that's not a good sign already. If we take out the group homes, we've still got an oversupply of about 24 places. And yet we've got a crazy amount of pipeline. Now, I'm going to just touch on the pipeline here. We've been lucky enough to come across some information that has given us a bit more clarity on the SA3 pipeline figures and the age of some of the stock being reflected in the pipeline. So I've kind of tweaked the numbers here. Previously, all we are given from the NDIS in their quarterly data is the SA4 pipeline amount. So we'd have no way of knowing which parts of that large region the pipeline are in. So I've now got a little bit more clarity on where it is, and as expected, almost all of it is in Mackay. Now, I've gone through these new pipeline figures and I've actually taken out anything that was added to the pipeline going back to 2020, 2021, 2022, and just looking at pipeline dwellings that were reported more recently. And that's taken out quite a lot of the pipeline that we were initially looking at. However, we've still got something like 90 to 95 places in the pipeline, in addition to the 125 places that is already in oversupply for 76 participants. So when we kind of break it down, we're looking at an oversupply of maybe 125 places or 132% oversupply. Housing Hub themselves list 50 places currently vacant in Mackay. And we're not just talking about high physical support, we are talking about quite a significant oversupply of robust properties as well. The demand for robust is only looking like about 5% of participants. Even if we assume 10% participants need robust, which is the NDIS predictions across the board, we're still looking at an oversupply of robust places where we've got currently enrolled 15% in the larger area. So 13% of new build are robust and probably about 15% again of the pipeline are robust. So definitely an oversupply there. As for the rest, we always do see a majority of the properties are HPS. Again, not such a big issue if they're also certified for FA and IL, as participants with those categories can live in them. But we do actually see, quite interestingly, a higher proportion than normal of participants that have accessibility issues. So there's actually, I'm looking at the stats, we've got about 60% of participants who fall into the HPS and FA category in the area. I don't know if this is part of the reason why there's been more pipeline gone into the area. There may be more sort of visibly people with physical disabilities in the area. Maybe it was assumed by providers that there was a greater need. But I think that there's been an element of builders going in and saying, oh, look, we can get cheap land here, we can build houses and villas and whatnot here. Let's just go ahead and do it. So this is just a warning to say we have a significant oversupply in the Mackay region. And even when we're looking ahead to, say, 2032 and the projections from the NDIS of 112 participants, that's a 27% increase over what we've currently got. Yeah, it's still not looking good. There's still way too many places. We could be still looking at 100 places oversupply. So, yeah, in a nutshell, Mackay is a well oversupplied region, as many of those more regional towns in central and north Queensland. So just be warned and be aware that you really do need to look into the data a little bit more comprehensively if you're looking at investing in these areas. So that was it, short and sweet for today. And I will be back soon with another SDA Unlocked. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.